The 2020 schedule for Ole Miss, yes, it was an all SEC schedule, but they wound up coming out of that pretty good, because if you look at who they played out of the East last year, they got to play Vanderbilt, they got to play South Carolina, they did have to play Kentucky, who was a pretty tough opponent, and then of course they did play Florida. But then you go back to the West, they had their game against Texas A&M canceled, so you avoided playing the second best team in your own division. So yes, the schedule did set up pretty well for Ole Miss, and we are now going to look ahead to 2021 and see if the schedule sets up in a way that could allow them to make some noise. And I think some people are starting to pay attention to this team. This is your schedule. Again, 5-5 last year. Of course, that first game of the year against Louisville will be very interesting on Labor Day, Monday night in Atlanta. But let's look first at the non-conference games, the non-division games, I should say, for the Rebels. They'll play Louisville, just like I just mentioned. Austin Peay, Tulane, not a bad group of 5 team. That'll be a pretty good matchup there. And then Liberty. How about that Liberty game? Who knew? Hugh Freeze would wind up at Liberty, and we would see Liberty and Hugh Freeze taking on his old team, Ole Miss. I wonder how the fans will react in that game. I think they're probably going to boo him just because he brought them some good years, but at the same time he did cost them because of the off-the-field stuff. So that'll be interesting to see how the fans react in that game. But look at their draw out of the East. Tennessee and Vanderbilt. It doesn't get much better than that. I think you could throw South Carolina into that group, but these are going to be the bottom teams in the East this year. Definitely Vanderbilt. Tennessee, I think, is still going to struggle with all the losses that they had just off of their roster and new coaching staff. I expect them to be really down this year. So you've got Tennessee and Vanderbilt out of the East. That is great news if you're an Ole Miss fan. So we go back to the schedule. They'll open up with Louisville on September 6th. Like I said, Labor Day night. Great matchup. National television. This is going to be big for both teams, both programs, and it should be a pretty good game. Austin Peay will be after that. Then Tulane on September 18th at home against, again, a pretty good team, a good group of 5 team out of the American Conference. I don't think that'll be a blowout. It'll probably be a pretty competitive game, but Ole Miss should win. And then they get their bye week really early. They'll get their bye week after these 3 games and right before playing Alabama. That is interesting. Remember, Ole Miss took Alabama into the 4th quarter last year. They have had success in Tuscaloosa. They've won there before. This could be a big-time matchup here, and they're going to have extra time to prepare. And really, if you don't have too much trouble with Tulane, if you don't have to spend too much time on Tulane, they could actually have more time than that to prepare. I mean, do you really need to spend much time on Austin Peay? Probably not. After they get past Louisville, you have to wonder, will their eyes start turning to Alabama, and will they start preparing for that game? You don't want to overlook Tulane, like I said, but again, a lot of time to prepare. Could they potentially upset Alabama this year? I think it's one of those games that if you're talking about Alabama, it's one of those games you're circling as a potential upset alert game. So after that, they play Arkansas on October 9th at home. Tennessee on the road October 16th. LSU October 23rd at home. You see they're kind of alternating the home and away here. That's going to be really after that Tennessee game. And again, I think Tennessee's going to be down this year. After that game, that's when the stretch is going to begin. LSU at Auburn October 30th. Then a tough Liberty team November 6th. Texas A&M November 13th. That is a tough stretch. Those 4 games in a row right there are going to make or break the season, I think, for Ole Miss this year. They do get a break after that, playing Vanderbilt on November 20th. And they'll close out the season on the road at Mississippi State, of course, like they always do in the Egg Bowl. But this year it'll be back on Saturday like it was last year. I'm going to miss this game on Thanksgiving. I don't know if the plan is to stick with the Saturday schedule from now on, or if they're going to go back to Thanksgiving after this year. I really wish they would, just because having college football on Thanksgiving night is just a great thing. I'm not a big NFL fan myself. Don't really care to watch those games. So having a game after you've had the Thanksgiving festivities, you can kick back and watch a college football game. We need that. It used to always be Texas and Texas A&M, and then it kind of switched over to the Egg Bowl. Maybe that will come back. But this year, again, that game is set for Saturday. So the schedule, again, for Ole Miss is not too tough in the non-conference. Yes, you've got 2 games that are not going to be easy wins in Louisville and Liberty, but you're not playing a powerhouse team, and you've got a chance, I think, to win both of those games. And then you look at the East, they'll play, like I said, Tennessee and Vanderbilt. Great draw there. You've got some big games at home. You've got LSU at home. You've got Texas A&M at home. Auburn might be down a little bit this year. A potential chance to go on the road and win that game. In fact, Arkansas might be better than Auburn. We really don't know. And they get that game at home as well. This is a schedule that sets up really well for Ole Miss. Outside of the game, on the road at Alabama, I think everything on this schedule pretty much goes in their favor. I think their toughest games pretty much are at home. The non-conference schedule, not all that tough. And then they have a great draw out of the East. So I think this schedule for Ole Miss sets up in a way to where they could really make some noise in 2021.